So it seems like we may have something in common where I started a company that did not work out. I feel like your company came a lot closer to get to working out, and that certainly no one bought my little company to employ us in the way that Google bought your company. So can you tell us a little bit more about your entrepreneurial uh, arc with Apture? Because as someone who started a company myself, it was very, very hard. It sounds like you had some ups and downs too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, I don't talk about this that much. So Apture, just so I explain what it was, the phrase we came up with, it's like lighter fluid for sparks of curiosity. It was a service that when a publisher like The Economist or New York Times put it on their website, it would create this ability for a reader to get on the fly multimedia explanations about any topic. First started out as a publisher tool. So we had like the climate change blog on the New York Times and several other sites basically linking statistics or videos. So you would say, hey, I want to.
So how many of you were there, and did you
Oh,
get a little bit of funding out of Stanford like when you decided to launch this thing?
yeah. Well, I mean, I was 22, I think, when we started the company, and I actually was living in Argentina, learning to dance tango, and on the evenings working on this startup from my from a cafe. But yeah, I mean, we had a few Stanford friends of mine in senior year get together. We raised venture capital actually we raised investing money from a couple fathers and friends of some other friends of mine from Stanford. And we got our first deal with the Washington Post. This is back in the heyday of people asking what would the future of news and online context be. And the idea was, could we do something really different and radically new when it came to news online? In fact, it was about social impact. Like, for example, could you see the congressional voting record of every single politician while you were reading the New York Times and see the video that they gave of the speech that they gave on the House or Senate floor right there in the article without leaving the page? And we actually built that. So on the Washington Post for a few years in 2007, 2008, you could click on any Congress member and then see their voting record and videos of them on the House or Senate floor without even leaving that article. So we were really trying to create a kind of transparency and positive social impact and a reifying of what would make democracy stronger. Of course, and this is where the story turns, what happened was that publishers like The Economist or New York Times or Washington Post would ask us, okay, we thought we wanted you to help, give people these interesting features to learn about whatever they want. It ultimately, our success metric for them was, did we increase the amount of time people spend on their website? And that's when it really hit me that my personal goal, which is more of a social impact, almost aesthetic or art driven goal of, can we make, democracy stronger or give people better information, was really a different thing than the business goal, which is about maximizing engagement and attention, even on news websites. And the fact that I couldn't reconcile that in my own mind, that every day I would kind of tell one story to our team of engineers. We were only about a 10-person company. We would tell one story to them of we're trying to make the world, more curious and help people learn about things. But then there'd be this other side of it, which was measuring our success on how much time we were getting people to spend. And I tried to pretend for a long time that was the same thing, just like at Facebook, like we're making the world more open and connected. Yes, we are doing that, but we're also maximizing just engagement. And they seem really aligned, right? If one is happening, like I'm making the world more open and connected, then the other thing should be happening. People are spending more time. So it's easy to fool yourself into thinking that they're the same thing. And, I don't think I've actually told this story before, but it was through a set of other tech founders and I gathering for something we called Doubt Club that I decided to basically cave in and just frankly, let Google acquire the company for parts because, it was hard to admit to myself that really we weren't going to go anywhere and that this was something that we were going to be trapped in this attention game forever, and there'd be a limit to the kind of growth that we could get because we had to fight for every publisher that used our service on their website. So we started a group called Doubt Club, where several founders, realizing that when you're a tech founder, you can't really express, doubts.
It is a very isolating thing being a founder because you're there and it's like you're telling your team, hey, we're going around the corner, and to tell the investors, hey, we're going around the corner. Like there's no one there's no founder that's going to be like, hey guys, I actually have my doubts about this. Because one of the things that happens is that any doubt you have gets amplified and magnified tenfold for like anyone around you. I'll tell you, running for president was like that too. It's like, like if the candidate starts evincing doubts, people will be like, wait a minute, I'm dedicating my career to like trying to get this person elected. What? So like you have to be freaking stoic and on top of it at all times.
Completely, right? I mean, and that's the pressure as you're talking about. I mean, in many leadership roles, there's no safe place to sort of say, man, I'm not sure if this is really the right path, or maybe this business model isn't, maybe we shouldn't exist even, Can you even think those thoughts, or are those thoughts unaffordable to you? So this group was really profound. We had several friends, and the first rule about Doubt Club is don't talk about Doubt Club, because
definitely
you really,
don't talk about Doubt Club.
yeah, I mean, sure. We had to be many of us, we knew each other's investors. And so if you're given a safe space to talk about maybe this shouldn't exist, you're not going to go off and you're going to keep that secret, obviously. So it was through that social support, though, that several of us ended up letting our companies become talent acquired. And what I mean by that really is acquired for parts. I mean, this was not a successful acquisition. And then another person in that group ended up just shutting down their organization and company. But again, I think what it really had us recognize is the internal conflicts and the kind of denial that we can face when we're sitting on top of something. You've raised millions of dollars. You've got 12 people working for you. You've got livelihoods that depend on you. Can you be really honest about when maybe the thing that got you here isn't what is really still happening, that social purpose? And that's when, I think this started to turn for me. And I think that's what's at the root of when I look at many people in the tech industry. I don't see them as evil people. I see them as trapped by a set of incentives that I think now many of them also agree are true. And this is just kind of the place we find ourselves.
Yeah, you experienced the incentives directly on two levels with Apture. Number one is how does my company grow and get paid? And that's related to how publishers grow and get paid. And that's time spent on their website so that they can sell more advertising. And then the second set of incentives is if I'm in a leadership role in this organization, then what are my imperatives? What am I allowed to express and not express? And those two things are playing out at a gargantuan, almost unthinkable scale at a place like Facebook. Because for them, instead of being like, hey, I'm going to get an extra contract from a publisher, it's like, I'm going to get tens of billions of dollars if we just keep this thing going. And then if you're a senior executive at Facebook, you're like, okay, I've got the biggest franchise in the history of the world. Some people are telling me maybe I should examine my practices. Well, let's see. I have very, very powerful incentives like pulling me this way and not really that way. So you lived it, and I think you understand it more deeply as a result.
Well, I think that's actually why, Andrew, I think our message, I want to name, there's many more researchers in the community who've been studying some of these problems, whether it's Doug Rushkoff or Sophia Nobel or others who focus on different aspects of these harms. And we're really building on the work of those people. But I think the reason that when our message came around, that it really resonated with people inside the tech industry, is it spoke in the vocabulary and language that they actually operate in, which is, do you have a metrics dashboard? Do you measure DAUs, daily active users? Do you measure MAUs? Do you measure engagement time spent? 7-day actives? We know the common metrics and design decisions and the kind of vocabulary that people on the inside use. So I think when we spoke, it was the first time that I think people on the inside had to come to terms with the fundamental misalignment of incentives that I think people didn't want to look at. And I just want to name that because, while I think we've been successful at that, we're building much on the insights of people who came before and have been critiquing these areas, whether it's Sherry Turkle or, more recently, Jean Twenge and Jonathan Haidt. There's lots of great people who are doing the research, and they're also in the film. But I think we've been successful because we've been speaking a language that makes it more universally understood for the masses. And that's why the film actually is so exciting, because I think having it received in 190 countries and in 30 languages, being number one in India, number one in Lebanon recently, breaking records on for documentaries on Netflix, I think it's created a cultural moment, a global cultural awakening, akin to something like Inconvenient Truth or A Silent Spring, but for the toxic business models of some of the tech companies.
It's so important. I am so proud of you and whoever busted their tails trying to get that movie into the world, and Netflix for taking it up and distributing it. Thank you, Netflix. So you have this tough a series of meetings at Doubt Club and you say, look, I think Aperture is not going to stand the test of time or grow the way I want it to. So then to get yourself acqui-hired for parts by Google, is that like an easy thing? Because, you're a hyper talented guy. I'm sure some of your engineers are hyper talented. Is it like pick up the phone? Did you have friends at Google where you were like, hey, like, let's get this conversation going? How does that work?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I had some friends who were at Google, but I didn't know any of the leadership there. Certainly, I think we were, you know what it was actually? I could tell you the story. Do you remember when Quora first launched?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Adam D'Angelo, who's the CTO of Quora, had started this question and answer site, which everybody now knows is called Quora. And there was the early community of Quora adopters. And one of the first questions that I think it was Zuckerberg who asked the question on Quora, and it said, who are the most, sorry, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I'm just trying to give you a story of what happened. But Zuckerberg had posted, what are the most talented companies and people that in Silicon Valley right now that most people don't appreciate? And there's obviously lots of questions lots of answers to that post. But the one that people voted up the most was actually Aperture and our team. And so I think that post, where we were highlighted as a uniquely talented group of people, led to some conversations about acquisitions with Google. I came to know Sundar Pichai, who at the time was, he's obviously now CEO of Google, but at the time he was head of Chrome and apps. And, we started an acquisition process with a small competition. It was very challenging. I mean, actually, these things take a long time, and it was really one of the most stressful and depressing periods of my life, to be honest, because you have to admit that, you've been working for 6 years incredibly hard, and it's all just, we got eaten up by the Borg. I mean, our entire service and all the publishers and all the code and all the data and everything we had done got, became ash once we got acquired. But I think it did teach me many valuable lessons, and I think it created the foundation for the design ethics work that took us to now.
Thank you for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you did, please do subscribe to Yang Speaks and click on notifications so we can let you know every time we have a new episode.